Hey, this is Stephen Clark and I'm out here with Upshift and we're testing this Suzuki DR650 project bike. So Chris and the guys from Upshift have been working on this bike all winter and I was pretty excited when Simon asked if I wanted to come ride it and kind of check it out. So personally, I'm a huge fan of the DR650s. I have two of them in my garage at home. I have a 90s model that I built into a little scrambler bike, and I have a 2001 that's a lot kind of similar to this in many ways. But yeah, this bike, this is a current model DR650, and the guys have gone through it from front to back and made a whole bunch of modifications to the bike to improve it. And yeah, today we're going to kind of walk through those modifications and kind of explain what they did and why they did it. So the first order of business on this project was getting a little bit more power and performance out of the engine. The stock DR650 has like a diaphragm style carburetor that works okay, but it doesn't kind of have as good a throttle response as kind of what a lot of us are used to. So ProCycle is a company in Oregon that they're absolute wizards when it comes to DR650s, and they sell a TM40 carburetor kit for this bike. So they put this carburetor on the bike and it really wakes up the bike quite a bit. There's a lot more throttle response and just makes it a lot easier to ride. The stock carburetor, when you're coming through sections and there's like some rocks, it doesn't have that instant response like this TM40 does, where you can kind of crack the throttle and lift the front wheel and kind of clear an obstacle. So TM40 is a great modification. They also added a Yoshimura exhaust, which kind of livens it up a little bit, and there's also some airbox modifications that are done to ProCycle's specs. When it came to suspension, they talked to the guys at ProCycle and they recommended Cogent suspension. So this bike has a Cogent rear shock in it and a Cogent cartridge kit in the forks. So the rear shock is basically a whole new shock. It has adjustable preload collar, different spring rate, super nice piece, and then there's a drop-in cartridge that goes in the forks. Still uses the same conventional forks, isn't a conversion kit or anything like that. But honestly, riding the motorcycle, I was really impressed with the suspension. The suspension of my DR at home is a lot more stock than this, and there's a noticeable difference to this package. Riding some of the off-road stuff we were on today, or kind of jumping off some little rocks and things like that, and the suspension was really predictable and it soaked it all up and really no surprises. So yeah, really impressed with the suspension package. Next up, the guys went to work on the ergonomics of this bike. So they added a seat concept seat, which adds a ton of comfort for this motorcycle. The cool thing about these bikes is they're probably as close to a 50-50 motorcycle as what available. So for riding on street or off-road, so it's really nice to have a nice kind of cushy seat for those highway miles. So seat concepts, put the seat together, and then up front they switched out the handlebars. We've got a handlebar riser kit with an 1.1 inch fat bar from Fly, which really kind of raises up the riding position, makes it more comfortable. And then we got some nice big beefy foot pegs from Fastway. So we've got some nice sturdy pegs to stand on, which is really nice for off-road riding. So you probably noticed that this bike looks a lot different than your standard DR650, and that's thanks to all the Cudby's bodywork parts on it. So it has a larger 5.3 gallon gas tank, which is really nice, got a lot more range on this motorcycle. We also have an Cudby's aftermarket headlight, and there's a front fender that's a DRZ400 Supermoto fender, which just looks really cool. And then in the back, there's this DR200 tail tidy. It's a new brake light and it really smaller, just makes the whole back of the bike look a lot cleaner and nicer. And up here on the bars, we got some nice Cudby's wraparound style handguards. They've got the aluminum kind of bark buster style guards in them, so protecting the levers when you're going through brush or if you fall over. And we also have some nice double take mirrors that are built out of a ram mount, so they're nice and adjustable. You can put them up or down if you're doing some off-road riding. So really nice accessory on the bike. And we also have some really trick little Yoshimura turn signals front and rear. Really kind of trims up the bike and makes it a lot smaller and sleek looking. So a huge part of adventure bike riding is navigation. Knowing where you're going, knowing where your buddies are, finding trails, etc. And TrailTech's Voyager Pro GPS is a really nice modification on this bike. So this actually replaces the whole stock speedometer. So through GPS we have speed data through the Voyager Pro GPS, and that's mounted with a really nice billet clamp that's yeah, super sturdy and just right there where you need it to see it. So for wheels, the guys at W built us a really cool wheel package for this bike. We actually took the stock hubs and had them Cerakoted. It's a really cool finish and it protects the hub. There's not a lot of aftermarket hubs available for this motorcycle, so stuck with the stock hub, and they wrapped those in some XL rims and spokes, and it's just, not only is it a stronger wheel package, but it just looks really trick. The black wheels look really good on the bike. And then the wheels are wrapped in some Bridgestone Battle Axe AX41 tires, which is really good adventure bike tire. Kind of leans a little bit more towards the off-road side of the spectrum, but really great match for a motorcycle like this. So adding some protection to the bottom of the bike is a Cudby's plastic skid plate. It's really nice for off-road riding, if you're hitting rocks, things like that. Just have that security, peace of mind that you're not going to punch a hole in a case or something like that. And then also another detail that's really cool about this bike is Chris actually took the swing arm off and powder coated it black. So it's kind of just a cool feature that kind of makes it stand out a little bit different. So on the back of the bike we have a Pro Moto billet CNC machined luggage rack that's really trick, and then on top of that we've got some Moscow Reckless 40 bags. These bags are pretty awesome. Like, we were riding some fairly aggressive stuff off-road today and the bags really didn't get in the way at all. So it's a cool system because you have a decent amount of storage. This would be good for an overnight trip or a light camping trip, but they're not intrusive to riding the motorcycle at all. So cool setup. They've got the dry bags, one on each side, and then there's another dry bag in the center on the top, and tons of webbing and different things for putting attachments on and storing little bits and bobs. And then for the final drive on this bike, they went to the 520 conversion kit from ProCycle. So it's some steel sprockets and an O-ring 520 chain, which is a really nice modification. It has the stock 1542 gearing on it. And lastly, this bike has an Upshift graphics kit, which really makes the bike look a lot better. It's really cool looking, and the different color plastic really kind of finishes it off really nice. And bear in mind that basically all these parts that are on this motorcycle will work on DR650s all the way back, I believe, into like the 2000s. This bike has remained somewhat unchanged for a long time. So it's a really cool motorcycle. Like, brand new, these bikes are like $6,500, and you can find them on the used market well below that price. So yeah, DR650, I mean, it's a fantastic motorcycle. Not only is it super affordable, but it's in a really cool size of bike where it's good off-road, but you can also ride down the highway really well. It's a really good adventure bike. And I've said this before, that when I first got into adventure biking, I was like, I wanted to do it for years, but I thought the only way to get into it was to buy a really expensive European motorcycle. And the barrier to entry is like a lot. It was like, you know, some of those bikes are $15,000 to $25,000. And I wasn't until later in life that I really discovered these bikes and other single cylinder bikes. And they're a great way to get into adventure motorcycling because they're so much cheaper. And honestly, you could take this motorcycle and go ride with anybody on any adventure bike, and you're going to have just as much fun as they are. The difference is, obviously, the newer advanced bikes, there are advantages there, but this bike will do everything that those bikes will. So yeah, it's no surprise that these bikes are so popular, and there's countless people that are riding around the world on these motorcycles because they just plain work. It's a great bike for sure. Okay, well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you liked this motorcycle. If you have any questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you below. If you have a DR650 and you have some modifications or things that you've done that you really like that are maybe not on this bike, we'd love to hear from you. Or if you just have any questions. So make sure you subscribe to see more videos like this, and make sure you check out Upshift Online for our monthly magazines.